No, we don't. You have to go outside. Down the out the hall.
There we go. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so pleased everybody is here today. We're expecting maybe a few more folks as they trickle in from their last commitment. You are here for the Preparing Your Grab and Go file, organizing important papers. So we're going to be spending the next hour talking about that. We're going to start with a poll, and Lauren, if you can bring that poll up, I am curious, why are you participating today? And I can actually see the poll today, Lauren, so we are good. Go ahead and respond to that. Are you planning to participate for personal use, for professional, or both personal and professional? Great. Oh, wow. 100% participation. Almost. Here we go. A few more minutes. I was looking at the wrong number. Here we go. Give you just a few more seconds to respond to this. All right, I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share those results. You might be curious as well. The majority of you are participating for personal use, 78%, and a handful of you, about 22%, are participating for both personal and professional use. So great. Thank you for joining today, and that helps me out a little bit as we continue through this conversation. My name is Sara Croymans, and I'm an extension educator with the University of Minnesota Extension, based out of our Morris Regional Office, and I work in our area of family resiliency, and a portion of my work looks at disaster preparedness related to resources. So that's who I am. I also want to introduce Lauren Johnson, who is one of our regional extension support staff. And today she is serving as our webinar producer. And so she'll be bringing polls in for me. She will be assisting with any tech issues that someone might, if you have tech issues, you can send a personal chat to Lauren and she can try to help you out. And she's also going to be putting some links in the chat. Please know that we will be sending a follow-up email to everyone that's participating today. And in that email, we will include a PDF, the PowerPoint slides, as well as all of the links that are included in the presentation. So don't feel like you need to grab those links or copy them down. You will get those in a follow-up email. Also, at the end of the webinar today, I will be sharing an evaluation link. And so I would appreciate any feedback on the webinar. If you need a certificate of participation, or if you are a University of Minnesota employee and you are looking for those well-being points for your insurance plan, you will need to complete the evaluation to access those. So hang in there till the end, and we will provide that evaluation link for you. So we planned this webinar specifically in September because it is National Preparedness Month. And so I'm pleased you are with me today, and we're going to be thinking about how to get our papers organized. How do we develop a grab and go file, and how do we keep all of that paperwork organized? And so we're going to look at that grab and go file. We're going to identify strategies and tools to get organized. We're going to discuss a few guidelines for those important papers. We're also going to talk about how do you replace important papers. So if you're currently missing some of those, or if a disaster were to strike and you needed to replace those papers. And we'll talk a little bit about creating that roadmap and communicating your plan with others. So I would like everyone to respond to this question in the chat. What are some potential times someone may need to evacuate their home quickly? When are some of those times? Oh, hurricanes, house fires. Yes, hurricanes are top on our mind right now. Tornadoes, fires, natural disasters, those floods. Thank you, Anna. Domestic abuse, definitely. Fires, floods, disaster, a family emergency, wildfires, Oh, a gas leak. Yes, that's a new one as well. An explosion nearby, right? Gas leaks. You need to run to the hospital. There's a medical emergency. Yes. Oh, crime. Protests. Thank you, Gretchen. Not too long ago in the Minneapolis area, we had some riots and protests and some neighborhoods evacuated, right? So folks needed to leave their home. Train derailments, chemical spills. Oh my gosh, you guys have done super, super good with that. So there are lots of times when people may need to leave their homes. Definitely. On this slide, we're looking at some headlines related to natural disasters. Dams failing and hailstorms and tornado warnings. And so lots of things that could happen for sure. And also the civil unrest, violence in a home, and you all mentioned several others. So there are many times when an individual or a family might need to leave their home quickly. So we typically think of, when we're talking about preparing for a disaster, about an emergency kit. And as you can see in this picture here, it would be pulling together, some first aid supplies and some water and some food and the flashlight and all of those things, which are very important. But a piece that we oftentimes do not think about are those important papers that should probably be going with us as well today. As well. And so if you don't have an emergency kit like this showing on the screen here, you can go to the ready.gov/kit and find out information on that. But we will not be covering that piece today because we're going to be focusing on that grab and go or red file. So recent disasters and pending disasters, right, with the hurricane down soon to hit the Florida area, but with floods and tornadoes, wildfires, it really reminds us that we need to take precautions and be prepared for events such as that. So we really need to think about what we should be pulling together. National experts recommend having a red file or a grab and go file that contains the essential personal, legal, financial information necessary in an ongoing or in an emergency. And having those documents with you will allow you to better cope during that crisis or recovery time. So in that grab and go or red file, it's best to have it in a file case or a binder, ideally a waterproof container. So if it does get wet, if the flood does come into your home before you're able to grab that, ideally, again, it would be great if that grab and go file or red file was small enough to fit in a backpack or a travel bag so you can actually grab and go with it. And it's best to store that in a safe, convenient place, right? And so it might be on a shelf in the front hall closet, right? Kind of out of sight. So it's not sitting on the table at the entryway, but in a safe, convenient place so you're able to grab that pretty quickly. When I'm looking at that waterproof container piece, also, it could be as simple as 2-gallon Ziploc bags inside your duffel bag or your backpack there as well. So needs to be portable and ready to go. So what should we include in that? A roadmap, which is going to be our master list of information, and we'll be looking at that roadmap in a little bit. It would be ideal to have a list of prescriptions. What are you taking? Name, dosage, pharmacy. Now, for many of us these days, our clinic or our hospital has a portal or my chart is what my clinic calls it. And so I'd probably be able to access that information there. So think about other areas or other ways you might be able to access that information. But if you're not able to go online and access your list of prescriptions, it would be good to have that list. It might also be good to have your safe deposit box key or safe combination. So if you had to evacuate quickly. Computer passwords, again, let's make sure we're thinking about safety and security. And so you may not want those written down on a piece of paper in our backpack on the top shelf in our entry closet. But so set up a system to have your passwords accessible and available. And there's many secure apps and ways that you can save that. But I know many of people who have a little black book with all of their passwords. So figure out a way that you'll be able to take those with you. We are talking about emergency cash here, and somebody mentioned that in the discussion before we got started here. During a disaster, the ATM machines might not be working. The credit card machines might not be working. The banks might be closed. And so having some emergency cash would be really wise. Thinking about how much to have, well, it really depends. Think about what your short-term needs might be. If you had to fill up your vehicle with gas, if you needed to purchase some food, if perhaps you needed to pay for a hotel room, some of these sorts of things. So a couple $100 or a little bit more might be good. And again, we want to make sure that our grab and go bag or our red file is in a safe place, so so that money isn't in jeopardy. Also, we need that relevant personal, financial, and legal documents. So we really recommend copies of things, probably not my original birth certificate or marriage license or my the passport we probably want to have, maybe our original there, but copies of most things. Some people mentioned earlier, or one person did, they would grab their computer on their way out, and we chatted a little bit about that wasn't backed up. And so maybe having a flash drive with scans could be a replacement for that computer, or having that flash drive as a backup to what has been scanned into the computer. Also, we talk about perhaps storing things in the cloud. And so definitely check on security and do what you are comfortable with that. But it's always good to have some backup plans. Sometimes we might give a flash drive to a trusted family member to keep that at a different location as well, in case my house blows away in a tornado. So some more details here about what those photocopies of important documents might be. And many of you hit on these items. And again, photocopies, birth certificates, marriage divorce papers, driver's license, and other things that you have in your wallet. Perhaps a copy of will or trust documents, power of attorney, recent income tax return. And I should almost make that plural. It might be good to have 2 or 3 years of those main documents, the passports and other identity documents, any military discharge papers, whatever might be on your list of really important documents that you want to make sure you take with you. And folks might be thinking that, well, I've got this all in my safe deposit box, and that's great, right? Having the originals in the safe deposit box would be an excellent idea, but having those photocopies just in case. Several years ago, there was a flood down in Rushford, Minnesota, in the southeast part of the state, and the bank was flooded. And so everybody's safe deposit boxes were underwater. And so birth certificates, all of these things, right, were wet and maybe not readable or usable. And so having these photocopies can be very important as a backup for that. All right, so time for me to ask you to contribute. What are some benefits of having records organized? Yeah, thanks, Jackie, for sharing what your parents do, a binder in the refrigerator. Yep, those password managers, Rachel. Accessibility, fast recovery, convenience for family members, finding them when needed, less stress. Thank you, Sarah. I'm all about that. Quick access, time saving, peace of mind, having everything in one place, and having that sense of security, definitely. Tara with, let me see, I got to scroll back for you here. Sudden death, right? So family members don't have to scramble. Yeah, preventing that chaos and having that sense of control. Yep. All right. So Patricia, you're saying make it at E at Cinto Fine. Tell me more about what that is. Yeah, and Sharon, right? If the primary organizer isn't available, right, so that others can grab all of that information and take that, really, really very important. Ranja has the Book of Death 3-ring binder. Oh my goodness, yes. And David, you're right. We all behave differently at times of crisis. And so some of us might remain pretty calm and some of us might get pretty excited. And so for many of us, thinking clearly won't be a reality for us. So if we put the time in and the work in ahead of time, we're better able to go. Holly, thank you so much. By getting organized, you're going to figure out what are you missing, right? So it'll help you identify some next steps. Thank you, Holly. Jose indicates it'll help you save money. And I'm thinking, Jose, that you're referencing if you get your stuff organized, then you're not going to have to go pay for duplicate documents. So wonderful ideas. Excellent, excellent. All right, and I think you hit all of these here, right? Accessible, saves you time. It helps you determine what was missing, exactly what we just talked about. Saving money. It could provide proof of transactions for different things. Easier to cope in those emergencies. Peace of mind for you and others in your family. And it could be helpful to assist your personal representative of your estate as well. So lots of benefits. So let's start talking a little bit more about what we need to do, but we're going to start with a poll. Lauren, if I can have you bring this poll up. Please share with us what is your preferred method of organizing important papers? Looks like file cabinet is the most popular at the moment, but go ahead and keep responding. We're going to give it another few seconds here. All right, I'm going to end the poll and we will share the results. 55% of you prefer using a file cabinet. So file folders and having things organized. A few of you are using shoe boxes, the drawer pile on the kitchen counter. Yeah, 5 of you. I have that at times until I process information. 17% of you are using the computer or electronically. And then we did have 10 people who indicated other. And so I'm going to look over here in the chat. We have some folks using a portable safe, a safe, Ziploc bags of the safety deposit box, file cabinets, fireproof safe. Yeah, sorry, Lisa, that my question was misleading to you. What's your preferred method? Yep, and you could have, we limited you to 1 response, so I'm sure we could have allowed multiple responses there. So thanks, Bess, all of them. So thank you for sharing that. And so we're going to work through here. It is important to have a space, and whatever that space might be, for you to work and to get your paperwork organized. And so having somewhere comfortable, convenient, maybe near family action in the family room, if you need to keep an eye on family members, young children, or maybe a quiet place in a bedroom, or again near a play area with small children. But that'll allow you some time to get things organized. Good lighting, good lighting, a comfortable chair, right? So it's easier to get organized if we have a nice place to be able to do that. And then having the right tools. So a table or a desk, and for some of us, it's going to be our kitchen table, a telephone, a waste paper basket, and a shredder, right? So as we're sorting through things, hopefully we'll be identifying some things that we no longer need to keep, and we want to be really careful with what we put into the garbage. And so if there's any personal identifying information on documents, push them through that shredder. So file cabinets, if that's your preferred method, pencils, papers, envelopes, file folders, labels, sorting boxes or envelopes. For some people, they might want an inbox, an outbox, and a to be filed box. I know over here I've got my file cabinet, and there's about 3 inches of paper sitting on top of my file cabinet. That's my to do or my to be filed pile that I need to get to here in the near future. If you are comfortable using a computer, scanner, flash drives, internet access. So figure out which tools make the most sense for you. Now, who should be doing this? I noticed in the chat earlier, someone indicated that a benefit of being organized was that if the main organizer isn't there, others will know what to grab and where that information is held. So it's important that somebody step up for the family to organize it. And it can be a one person operation, or there can be 2 or 3 people that assist with that. It can be shared. But either way, the communication is important. Folks need to know where information is, what do we have, is there a backup? They need to know what that system is. But at a minimum, inform someone of that roadmap location. So we'll be looking at the roadmap in a little bit, which is kind of that list of where everything is at. So now we're going to look at the who and when, and what does that all mean? So 2 questions, the who and the when, right? And so thinking about who again, and who are we collecting information from and for? If you, for example, have young adults that you're working on launching, maybe they have their first job, or they're off to college or tech school, what do you give them, and what might you be keeping at home as parents for a little bit? So be thinking about when do we give some of those important papers to them and pass on that responsibility. I'm thinking a bit about the birth certificates that are going to be needed when young people are applying perhaps for a driver's license, or that social security card when they're applying for their first job, or when they're filing taxes for the first time after they get that first job. Where do those tax returns get stored, and who's storing them? Or when these young people are applying for post-secondary education, they might need certain types of documents. And so perhaps providing some of these documents on an as-needed basis, right? As my 16-year-old is going to apply for that driver's license, right? They can have that birth certificate in their possession while they go do that, and then maybe we'll return it to the safe place that our family has established. Those social security cards as well. So have those conversations about who has the documents and when do they need access to it, and where should they go for other, where should they go when they do need those types of things. All right, and then also I wanted to mention when we're thinking about the older folks in our family, right? So my parents, perhaps, or I don't have grandparents anymore, but so my parents, right? Do they have healthcare directives, and have they shared those with me? Have they shared them with others? Who should have copies of those types of things? I have 3 adult children, and so they know where my important papers are in case something were to happen to me or my husband, as well. So be thinking about the who and the when and the where, and with all of that. So based on your situation. So
There is a quick question in the chat.
thank you, Lauren. What is the question?
Would digital copies serve as a legal document rather than having the printed documents?
Okay, thanks, Mary Sue, for that question. Thank you, Lauren. So I'm not quite sure which situation you're thinking of, but perhaps you might be thinking about my 16-year-old needing to go get the driver's license and would need the birth certificate. Typically, in situations like that, they need the originals. Yep, they're going to need the originals and not a copy. I just renewed my Minnesota driver's license in July because I have a July birthday, and I wanted to get one of those. What do they call the new drivers? The real driver's license, right? So I can use that as identification when I'm flying down the road here when that's needed. And they needed originals. Yep. And for hiring, thank you, Mindy. You're going to need originals. But having copies in our grab and go file is a good start, right? So we at least have that information. Thanks for the question, Mary Sue. All right, so getting started, have a basic outline of file categories that you want to use, whether you're using a physical file cabinet or you're doing files on your computer or online. Do the labeling, and where do you start, right? It can be an overwhelming process. So maybe you start with today's paperwork. Look at what comes in the mail, what's on the top of my pile, right? And start. And for many of us, getting our papers organized isn't a sit down and do it in an hour sort of task. And so breaking it into smaller time chunks can be helpful, and give yourself a break so you don't get overwhelmed. And this last bullet here, gradually work through that backlog, right? And then once you get organized, try to stay on top of that to be filed pile of paperwork that comes in. And once you get started, organizing the rest won't be so difficult once you get your system and your process figured out. All right. So here's that roadmap for important papers that I've been referencing. This link, again, will be in the follow-up email that I'll be sending. And this is just an example of what you might be able to use. If you love Excel or Google Sheets or whatever, you could easily collect information on those types of documents as well. But this is an index for all of your important papers. And so it's going to identify the location of each item. It's going to include contact names and numbers. So this is the one document for that most critical information. And this can definitely provide ease of finding things both for yourself and others. So think about how valuable something like this would be if you had a parent that passed away, right? And you need to go into their home after their death, and there's not a roadmap. And you have to start sorting and digging. But if there were a document such as this, it would make that situation so much easier. So you can see we've got 12 things listed here. There could be more of what would be listed or included on that roadmap. So again, personal information, advisors, those insurance policy numbers and contacts, right? And phone numbers, who's my agent? What financial institutions do I work with? Investment information, Social Security records, any additional investments, the savings bonds, CDs, real estate information, vehicle information. Do I have any rentals, credit accounts, do I have a safe deposit box? Where is that? Or having a list actually of what's in that safe deposit box or fireproof safe. So these are some of the things that we would identify on this roadmap for important papers. Now, on the last poll, I had the garbage listed as an option for organizing papers, and I don't think anyone selected that, and probably because I forced you to pick your preferred one. But I think the garbage or the round file is an important tool to use as we're sorting through our papers. And so one great trick is to open your mail next to the wastebasket or shredder. And again, make sure you shred things that have any personal identifying information. And one way to reduce some of that junk that comes in your mail is to get your name removed from those junk mail lists using mail, email, or telephone. So the mail preference services, you can contact them and ask to be on that list so you don't get all of that information in your mailbox. And we really want to reduce the potential of identity theft. So again, be careful on what you're putting into the garbage there. So thinking about where do you keep your important papers, and these are like 4 basic areas or places that you might keep information, and we're going to walk through each of these to see what might be good to keep in each of these places. But first, we're going to have another chat. If your purse or wallet were stolen, what possessions would you be most worried about? What would you be most worried about? Driver's license, yep, that DL, credit cards, IDs, driver's license, credit cards. Yep, bank cards, yep, so my debit cards, social security card, debit cards, keys, IDs. Yes. Oh, your phone. Very Sue, I'm with you, right? My phone has a lot of information in there. Who remembers phone numbers anymore? Insurance cards. Thanks, Regina. Yes. Precious photos. Yes. All very good responses. Yeah, that flex spending card, right? That we use for medical and dental eye care. Extra keys, Connie. All right. Thank you for sharing those questions or those responses. Definitely. So let's talk about what you might carry with you. Thanks, Deb. The makeup. Yeah. So what do you carry in your purse or your wallet? So that personal ID, right? We talked about that. And so for some of us, that might be a driver's license. For some people, it might just be an identification card. For some people, it might be a military ID card, that type of thing. Probably good to have some emergency contact information in your purse or wallet. So if you were in an accident, or something were to happen to you, who could somebody contact on your behalf then to get assistance to you? That driver's license, right? Important to have. If you're driving, you need to have that driver's license. Credit cards, if we're using those credit cards, I do suggest if you have credit cards that you don't use, maybe it's a good time to close some of those accounts. Or if you have some credit cards that you'll use on only very special occasions, or for me, I live in rural Minnesota and I don't have a lot of stores near me, but I do have a few store credit cards. So I might consider keeping those cards in my home safe until I travel to where those stores are, and then I could take those cards with me. We talked about health insurance cards, Medicare, our blood type organ donor cards. Those are always good to have with us if you have special medical information. Having the name and phone of your family physician, I had never thought about that one. But again, that could be helpful if you were in an accident or fell ill. Just going to mute a few people there. Great, thank you. And then the last bullet on here we are strongly recommending that people do not carry their social security card with them. And I saw that come up on some of the responses on what would be most concerning for you if your purse or wallet were stolen. Definitely, there are times when we need to carry that social security card with us, right? If I am applying for a job, or there's other instances when I need to have that. So definitely take that with you when you need it, but then return it to that safety deposit box, or put it in your home safe, wherever you keep your important documents. And definitely when we're sending our young people out to apply for that first job, they'll need that documentation. But then let's have them turn that back into that safe space, because we don't want these to disappear. It's important to photocopy all of your contents in your wallet. Well, why? Well, it provides information for cancellation or replacement if items are stolen or destroyed. So keep some copies of the front and back of all items. And this says 2 to 3 copies of front and back. So I would maybe want a copy of that in my grab and go file. I might also want a copy of that in my home file system, or the scans on my computer. But again, if my wallet were stolen, I would want to pretty quickly contact my bank or my credit card issuers to get those things copied, or excuse me, canceled. I already addressed the where, but I did not say if this works for you, it doesn't for everyone. You might want a copy of these things to a trusted relative or friend if you wanted a backup record of these items. But definitely safeguard these copies to prevent identity theft. Great. I'm seeing Holly's talking about one company that has a secure cloud location. So definitely look for those and make sure they meet your security guidelines as well. Mary asked about, I understand that closing credit card accounts can have a negative effect on one's credit rating. Good to check on that. We have done full webinars on that as well. If you were to close, let's say 5 credit cards all at once, your credit score would probably take a little bit of a dip. But if you're not using the cards, I think it's very okay, and your credit score will rebound there as well. All right, so that was what do you carry on yourself, right? Your wallet or your purse. Now we're talking about the home files and kind of 3 categories within that: current files, permanent files, and then dead storage. So the current files are those day-to-day things, those items that we use most often. Permanent files, ongoing records, we use them infrequently. And then the dead storage. And someone had the 3-ring binder, right? What was that? The dead file, their dead 3-ring binder, but this is dead storage. And this is anything that you're uncomfortable discarding. If you just can't bring yourself to get rid of something, it would go into your dead storage. Yep, so 3 categories here. And we'll be talking more about those in just a little bit. But then that third area is that safe deposit box or your home safe. And 2 types of information here: personal information, property information. You can see those lists here. These would typically be the originals for these items, and some lists of some things as well too. But having these in a very safe place, because it costs money to replace these items. Thinking about the home safe as well. How safe is it? Is it small that a burglar could come and pick it up? Is it fireproof? Is it water safe? Or if my house were to be flooded, would I be able to, would water get into that? And so if you are looking at purchasing things, and I think we'll be addressing that, I think, a little bit more on another slide of what to think about when we're doing that. So here, all right. So in addition, yes.
There's another question in the chat. It says, does using a password manager to keep track of the info substitute for keeping a copy of the image?
All right, I'd have all the numbers. Okay. Thanks for the question, Becky. So a password manager gets you into different documents and different files, right? But I probably still would need a copy of my passport or my driver's license. Those wouldn't be connected or unless I stored them in a cloud and it was password protected type thing. So I don't know if that's helpful or not. It's probably an and both type of response to that question. All right. So on the previous slide, we looked at personal information and property information. Now, also thinking about what should go in that safe deposit box or home safe related to financial or legal documents. So again, a listing of different things that you would want to keep pretty safe. And some of these things showed up when we had that very first chat before we got started on, what's most important to you? What would you grab first? And the adoption papers, maybe some contracts or copyrights, all of those specific certificates. So having these originals in a very safe place. Here we go. This is the slide I was a little premature on. Pros and cons of the safe deposit box versus that home safe. Is it fire safe? Is it theft safe? Is it water safe? Is it convenient? And then do you have other concerns with that as well? So think about that. And then again, by having copies of items that are in there and lists of what you have in those locations can be really helpful as well. All right, then the digital copies as well. It might be on a jump drive, it might be on a computer, it might be an email to yourself, but you need to assess if that is safe for you. And then again, there are a variety of secure cloud locations as well. And I don't have specific ones to recommend to you, but you will definitely want to make sure that you're using appropriate security protections. So if folks have any recommendations on this, we're definitely open to them, but we are in the digital world. And if there are times that we can reduce some of the paper, the massive amounts of paper, that might be a good thing. All right. Okay, so we're thinking about that filing system again now on what do we keep, categories of different types of information. So I'm thinking here again about our home filing system. So keeping all of these kinds of documents as they are appropriate for your situation. The funeral plans, right? Having that available. A list of valuables and collectibles. I think when we look at property as well, we'll be talking about having a home inventory, which is really important in case there's a fire or a disaster, or a tornado, that kind of thing. Here we go, the property information. So deeds and abstracts, vehicle records. All right, so my titles, my car titles, my vehicle titles, I would probably keep those in my home safe and some of those types in that type of location as well. All right. So a chat here. What items in your home do you want or need proof of ownership, and why? What items in your home do you want or need proof of ownership? And Laura, Gail will check on that link. I'm not sure. So before I send those out in the follow-up email, we'll make sure. Car, house, car, house, bank accounts, bank accounts. Other property. What kind of other property? Homeland, 401ks or investments, jewelry. Thank you to whoever said that. Life insurance. Yeah, David said jewelry. Anything that you might want to sell. Okay. Meg, credit cards, rental property. other tangible personal property of value, the deeds. All right, so a list of things that you might want to have proof of ownership, right? So you've talked about the what, but not so much the why, right? And so when I'm thinking about having a household inventory, my why is if there is a disaster, if there's a flood or a tornado again, and I need to document everything for insurance benefits or insurance reimbursement, it'd be much easier to have a household inventory before the event happens. We hear stories about people who are having to muck out their homes after a flood, and stories of families who have to bring in a big old dumpster, and they've got family and friends hauling stuff out of the house, and they've got someone positioned by the dumpster documenting everything that gets thrown so that they can include that on their insurance claims. So how do you do that? You have a list. You can back that up with photographs or videotapes, furnishings, equipment, personal possessions. And if you are going to videotape or photograph using your phone, right, you could again put those on a jump drive with your list, but be sure to document those types of things. And if you're doing, again, the photographing or the videotaping, open the closets, open the drawers, and get pictures of those things as well. So you've got a pretty complete or a more complete documentation. The why, all right, so determine the amount of insurance to purchase, right? So someone mentioned jewelry earlier. So if you have a lot of really nice jewelry, it may be more than what is covered on a typical homeowner's or renter's insurance plan. So it'll help you again identify, do I need some special insurance? It also provides that basis for filing insurance claims, can provide evidence of ownership. We had some friends who had some hunting equipment that were stolen, and they did not have the numbers off those pieces of hunting equipment, and so it was difficult to really claim that piece belonged to them. And then the value of possessions, so that can be helpful as you determine your net worth statement. All right, so here's an example of a household inventory, and so pretty simple. And again, we will include this link in the follow-up email. Includes some pretty basic information. And again, you could use a plain piece of notebook paper or an Excel file or Google Sheets, whatever you like to use. But you list the item, what's the manufacturer, model, serial number, the date purchase, what was the value of it when it was new. Value now, I would probably maybe leave that open. And then if the tornado occurs, I might determine what that value is. And then, of course, damage incurred if there were damage to that item. And this could be an overwhelming process as well, but I encourage you to start with the bigger items in your home, right? So if I have a nice camera, and so that would be on my list. Any electronic equipment, a variety of things, but start with the bigger items, but then work your way down, and it's good to have because it can be really stressful to have to do that later. All right, so then we move on to that financial accounts section with current and permanent files. Current files, again, are those ones that we are needing to work with more frequently, right? The bills that need to be paid, receipts, credit card statements, earning records, and many of these items are now happening or are available electronically, right? So my credit card statement, I could probably access that online. So what if I get it in the mail? Once I'm done with it, can I shred that and get rid of it because I would have access later? Receipts, you might want to be scanning those and saving those for future reference. Earning records, many of us don't get pay statements or pay stubs anymore. We go online and access those, which helps reduce all of this paper that we have. Then in that permanent file, credit reports, account records, retirement, pension stuff, any contracts, investments, tax information. So those sorts of things would go in that more permanent file. Of course, we want to keep track of our investments. And again, for many of us, we go online and access these. So we may not have paper copies of them, but you want to make sure you have accurate records. You might need those for tax purposes and of course to monitor things. Could use a file folder, 3-ring binder, again, electronic, having a section or folder for each investment, and including original confirmation statements. So the original cost, 1099s, that type of thing. So keeping the pieces that you need. Any legal documents, having them in that safe deposit box or that home safe or in a permanent file as well. So making decisions about where they might go, and you might choose to keep things in a different place, but definitely think through that and make those decisions based on your situation. So you can see what we have listed in each of those categories there. One big question we get all the time is, how long do I keep papers, right? How long do I have to keep that? And it can be difficult to figure that out. I do encourage people to date all information to determine what's the latest copy, because sometimes we might get an updated copy of something, put today's date on it, and then I can look back and get rid of previous items that the new item would take the place of. Reviewing files annually, going through those and getting rid of things that are old. I saw Maureen was asking just the most current statements. So summary statements, are you referring, Maureen, maybe to investments or credit card statements? You can definitely take a look at those and make decisions on that. If you have an investment professional that's working with you, I would definitely ask him or her about how long should I keep these? What do you recommend as well? Yes, at all, definitely. So challenging pieces. If it's difficult or costly to replace a document, the priority would be to save those items. Okay. Property and insurance records. So it might be good to keep proof of ownership and insurance coverage until a property is sold. I was just sharing with Lauren that my husband and I have been married 33 years this spring, and we have owned 3 houses over the years. And a few months ago, I went through my file cabinet and I actually got rid of all of the paperwork on the first 2 houses, because we've been in our 3rd house for 20 years. So we moved a few times early in our marriage, right? So it doesn't make sense to keep some of those things when it's like way past the time. So, if the property is sold, if claims are settled, if the policy is canceled, and definitely documents can be kept for reference even after items are sold and canceled. So do what you're comfortable with, but there's a time when it's probably okay to get rid of some of those things. So again, here's a listing of what some of these items might be. All right, and disability. All right, what about tax records? All right, the IRS recommends 3 to 7+ years, depending upon your certain situation. And so keeping records as long as needed. And so if you have a tax professional, I would encourage you to ask them and go by what they're recommending as well. All right. Now, if something were to happen and there were a tornado or a flood, or again, one of those terrible disasters, or if someone in a domestic abuse situation needs to leave quickly and didn't have the grab and go file together, needs to replace items. Here's a listing of some of those things that may need to be replaced. And so we will be including this link again in that follow-up email, but it gives information on where do I go to replace that birth certificate, or that the driver's license one is probably a little bit easier for us to think about and navigate. But watch for this link. And someone mentioned earlier that by sorting through all your paperwork will help you identify what are you missing. Right. And so if you happen to have lost a birth certificate in a move, now might be a good time to replace that. All right. So we're getting towards the end here. Continue to put any questions or comments in the chat. But I did want to recommend or refer again that September is National Preparedness Month. And so we encourage you to think about getting ready in a variety of ways. And this is one way that you can think about doing that. And so definitely go visit that ready.gov/plan. And they have so many great resources there. So we encourage you to start now, make a plan, set up your office, sort and file, and remember to shred. I have a friend who gives paper shredders for wedding gifts. So I think that's one of the neatest wedding gifts ever, right? But shred if it calls for it. Replace the missing items. Conduct that household inventory. Complete your roadmap. Set aside time every year to update annually. And then communicate with others. And we talked just a little bit about that with partners, spouses, adult children, even teens in the household should know where that grab and go file is and when they might need to grab that. So this is a list of potential steps that folks might take as you are getting yourself organized. All right, now as promised, if you are in need of a certificate of participation, or if you are in need of the UMN well-being points for both of these items, we need you to complete the evaluation. And here's the link, and Lauren will put that in the chat. And this link for the evaluation will also be in the follow-up email. The first question asks which webinar did you participate in? And so it's going to be the grab and go, organizing your important papers. Work your way through that evaluation. And at the end, it'll ask if you want a certificate of participation, yes or no. Provide your name and email, and a certificate will be emailed to you. And then it asks if you're a U of M employee, and if you are, yes. And if you want those well-being points, it'll provide a link and you can go there and work your way through that process. Please note that the university applies those points typically on the first Tuesday of the month following the webinars. So please be patient as those points are being applied to your account.
Sarah, there was a quick question.
Yes.
When should they expect the follow-up email?
Yeah, you know what? I have it drafted and I'm hoping to send it out this afternoon or in the morning. Yep, so it's pretty well ready to go. I just need to review it and we'll get that out once I'm able to pull down the list of participants. Thanks, Lauren. We do have several other webinars coming up. I have some colleagues that are Spanish speakers, and so they've got some great webinars coming up. If you're a Spanish speaker, or share them with your colleagues. Let me go back one. We have some on finding balance, and I'm really looking forward to this October 18th, exploring the mental health pandemic and how to respond to it, because we've had a lot of concerns about mental health recently with COVID. Family caregiving, managing your health through the holidays. Some great ones on later life decision making are there as well. We have some more financial ones, saving money while grocery shopping, financial exploitation of older adults, saving money with meal planning. So check those out. We also have some housing related ones and some webinars related to recovery and health as well. So definitely check those out. And then some related to nutrition on what's for dinner. Who couldn't benefit from saving money by meal planning or grocery shopping? Thank you, Lauren, for putting those links in. And again, all of these links will be in the follow-up email. And these final links here will help you find our family development webinars. And the bottom link will help you find all kinds of classes offered by Extension. We also invite you to get social with us. So these will be in that follow-up email as well. But if you're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, check us out and connect with us. Subscribe to our Family News e-newsletter so you're up to date on what kind of programming and opportunities we have. So I'm just going to take a quick breath here. We've got just a minute left. If anybody has any questions, please put those in the chat. Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that comment. So glad everyone was able to join us today. When everyone was so good at participating in the chat too, because especially when I present these alone, I feel like I'm just talking and talking. So I'd love to be able to pause and have everyone share information. Well, Lauren, I think we can stop the recording if you haven't already.